When we think about the decisions clients make, we often think about the formal decision criteria that they've applied to make a decision. And that's a valid consideration. In most competitive situations or where clients have defined a request for proposal or have determined that they're going to make a purchase decision, they'll lay out a number of formal criteria around functionality, capability, fit to business, features, price, technology. And we have to work within those confines in order to be appropriate in terms of an executable solution for the client. As we work with our clients in the field, we see huge amounts of evidence, though, and many of you will recognize the same thing, of a whole set of other activity going on in the background really driving decision-making. We've said before that sales is a political activity and that much of what happens by way of decision-making is about interpersonal relationships, motivation, manifestation of political positioning in the back office. And as a result, there's a whole lot of informal criteria that tend to drive decisions at a business and personal level. High-performing salespeople that we work with, the people that consistently, year in year, deliver hundreds of % of plan, are those people who are consistently working around the informal criteria to enable them to better influence decisions once they hit the formal criteria stage. Think of it this way. It's a matter of timing. By the time a deal or opportunity gets to a point where functional individuals or recommenders can determine some precise technical or formal criteria to make a decision, it means an enormous amount of influence has already been expended deciding to go this far in terms of a very practical, tactical decision. Simply put, companies that decide a year ago to focus on activities that improve their profit base by managing cost in their business can take up to a year or 18 months to roll out to a product decision that you can then work on technical criteria to. It means that if you only sell around technical or formal criteria, you can be as long as a year, year and a half behind the original strategic decision. So, if you're going to perform at higher levels, what are you going to do? Well, we've talked before about getting to people with influence in a business. If you're going to get there, the challenge is this. How do we work out what the informal criteria are, the mode of decision-making that's really going to drive motivation through the business and momentum through the business in order that we can control it? And it's about asking decent questions. It's about asking about impacts and effects. It's about asking about the personal drivers of decisions. It's about understanding people's reactions as decisions are made. So the question becomes, where do you go and how do you get to a point where you can manage, manipulate, and drive through the informal political criteria that can really help you drive decisions? We've already covered some of the answers in previous editions. It's about getting where the influence is and managing at a political level and an executive level where strategic decisions are being made for the business. It's about focusing your questions on the impacts of problems on a business at strategic level, as we've also discussed before, so that you can really understand the value that could be created right across a business and differentiate your positioning in those terms. And it's about your desire to control and try and manage a sales cycle. Very often we find ourselves responding to our client's purchasing cycle. That's important. Their purchasing cycle is an important part of how they like to do business. However, as salespeople, a critical part of our role is to manage and influence that, to control it, if you like. And to do that, it means we need to be checking constantly, managing constantly, positioning constantly the way in which we would like the decision to be made, making strategic and critical suggestions about ways in which decisions could be made, showing value, and asking the client to manage their deal, to manage their opportunity, and to manage their decisions based on the value that you specifically have shown them. So it demands a great deal of subtlety with influencers and political decision makers, which you'll learn as you go. Start point is let's get there. The second point is to have a desire to understand those personal and political drivers of business will that will lead to technical decisions. And if you attempt to control and manage those informal influences, you stand a much better chance of winning at the back end. You'll all have heard salespeople say, you may even have said it yourself, that when an RFP, a request for proposal, comes out, if you haven't written it, you won't win it. I found it to be true more times than not. And what it's really trying to say, it's a bit of a cliche, is if you haven't worked with some of those informal criteria, if you haven't tried to understand people's personal motivators and the real strategic value that you're going to be bringing through any solution, it's much, much harder to win at the tactical level just based on technical differentiation.